What's up, everyone? David Dudley Outdoors with a hunting tip for you today. And yes, I know you're going to probably watch this and be like, you know what? I already knew that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I'm going to put logic in behind what I'm talking about. So let's get started. All right, guys, it's that time of year. We know the leaves are just getting ready to fall and the deer are getting ready to be on their full-time rut. But one thing I want to talk to you guys about is how to get into your stand quietly, how to walk quietly through the woods. And I know you probably sitting there thinking, yeah, the less noise we make, the better off we're going to be. And that's really not so, okay? Deer and animals in the woods, they know when the leaves get crunchy. They know when the leaves are not crunchy, when it's wet, and they're gonna hear more stuff through the woods than we do. So just as we hear a squirrel, you know, through the woods, we can, most of the time we can think and we're like, ah, that's a squirrel. Or we may hear the sound of a continual pace. The continual pace of a deer, and we're gonna be like, oh, that's a deer. But I'm gonna teach you how to put logic in behind your approach to your deer stand, your approach if you're just stalking a deer or you're just trying to jump shoot a deer. This logic is gonna help you kill more deer consistently by walking through the woods quietly. First thing I wanna talk to you about, guys, is how many animals in the woods are really going to be present during the time of you sitting there for a deer. So let's think about it. A squirrel, pretty obvious. Deer, pretty obvious. If you're in an area with bear are going to be present, and turkey are going to be present. More likely you're going to hear more turkey and squirrel during the daylight hours than you are maybe an occasional fox running through the woods or a coyote running through the woods. But turkey and squirrels are probably going to be the most present thing in the woods. So let's think about the sound that a squirrel would make. A squirrel is going to make a sound kind of this pace. And if you've studied squirrels throughout the woods, they use lay down trees, logs, sticks to be quietly through the woods. But when they are on the leaves and they are on the ground where the leaves have fallen, basically it's going to be a cadence like this. There's no pace of a deer. A deer would have a pace of there's a pace of a deer that when you hear it, you're instantly got that rush. You're going to turn around, you're going to investigate it, look at it. You're constantly listening for rhythms throughout the woods. Now we're going to incorporate that also in our walk and what we do, but I'm going to tell you what not to do when you're walking. It is the biggest no-no in the woods that you can do, and I'm going to give you the logic behind it. When you are walking through the woods, one thing that is very critical in what you do is breaking limbs. And let's think about that a little bit. When you're in the woods hunting and you hear things walking through the leaves or approaching animals or whatever it may be, you hear that sound. Let's think about this. What out there truly can break a limb, okay? And what I mean by that, when I say you hear that in the woods, it's instant turnaround, right? It's instant. You heard something break a limb. When squirrel is not heavy enough to break a limb, a turkey's not heavy enough to break a limb, a bear is heavy enough to break a limb. Coyotes, foxes, they're not really heavy enough to break a limb. So the biggest alarm in the woods that you could ever do in walking is breaking sticks, breaking limbs, because that is like setting off an alarm. And I've been in the woods and watched this time and time again, where I'm looking at some deer. I have some other deer that are approaching me, and that deer may have stepped on a limb and broke a limb. Those deer know also that when they hear a limb snap, they're like, whoosh. You know, they're looking instantly. The sound of leaves, I've seen this so many times in the woods too, where deer are there present with me. The squirrels are, they're just, they understand the rhythm of squirrels their own self, okay? So the breaking of limbs is like the biggest alarm that you could ever do. Now let's talk about this, and I'm going to explain to you how to actually walk through the woods logically. Can you do it? You know, let's just say you're going 200 yards to your tree stand. Can you possibly walk 200 yards to your tree stand without cracking a limb? It'd be pretty hard to do, but I want to encourage you guys to walk lightly, tread lightly, and think as you are approaching, or as you are approaching a stalk on a deer. All right, guys, when you are walking through the woods, we discussed the squirrels, the turkeys, the bears, or whatever, a few little things that are in the woods. I want to incorporate that same rhythm. Now, don't get picky with me when you're like, squirrels sometimes do that. I'm not going to go through the woods like that, right? I'm not going to do that. But when you are walking and you are approaching, you always want to be on the look, no brainer. But my eyes are constantly scanning the ground just as much as they are when I'm looking for deer. So take, for example, right here. If you look right here, you see all these small limbs up underneath here. You got limbs that are hidden up underneath here. This is just visible to the eye. So if I was to actually step right here, boom, I'm gonna crack a lot of these limbs. But I know logically, just this next step to my visible eye, I'm not gonna see nothing. So as I'm approaching, I'm going down, looking, and I can see my step. So some steps might be short. So I'm right here, I'm looking up, like that. You're constantly looking for limbs on the ground, because that's the biggest alarm clock that there is. Okay, now let's talk about the rhythm that you want to go through. The rhythm of stepping, the rhythm of stopping. A lot of times when people are following me, I'm taking them to a tree stand, I have to constantly turn around and be like, pick up your feet, quit dragging your feet. And a lot of us have boots. They're a lot heavier than normal. We're used to light tennis shoes. It could be Crocs or whatever we're wearing. And we're in the rhythm of like picking up our legs. New hunters, they don't realize it, but their legs are used to a certain lift mode that they're in, and they end up dragging their feet. So tip number 2 is always pick up your feet in a rhythm that say they're going to. So the rhythm would be this. That would be the rhythm of dragging, pulling your feet across the ground and not lifting it up. Incorrect. Now let's go correct. Now that is the correct rhythm. Now again, you want to do a lot of stopping and starting. Squirrels aren't constantly in rhythm. Their sounds go silent for a little bit, then they go noisy for a little bit. But guys, you get the point, right? Point is, there's nothing that walks in the woods that can break sticks, that has a rhythm, which is a bear or a deer. Coyotes really don't weigh a lot. They're very light on their feet. They have the gait of a Tennessee Walker, so they're not gonna crack a lot of limbs. Guys, use logic in what you do. It's pretty simple. Hunting is a great sport, guys. I appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Guys, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Comment below. Let me hear your thoughts. And like I've always done my whole YouTube career, and I need help, is the double outro.